Alright, peace, Black Power, Hotep, and Rahubat. Haven't been able to go Facebook Live in a while because of a lot of things. I'm pretty busy actually. Another thing is each time I tried to go Facebook Live, it just would mess up. And I was like, damn, I can't even go Facebook Live no more. I wasn't sure what was going on, but it was just kind of crazy. So I just kind of took a break from just going live for a while and just kind of focused on just doing a lot of research. The brother Brandon Lamar Skates, we've been doing a lot of back and forth in terms of like he'll throw some stuff at me to research. I'll throw some stuff at him. Like he'll throw a book at me to go find. I'll throw a book at him to go find. So it's been pretty intense. But let's get to it. I noticed one thing about our people. We get really agitated with others who expose the truth. Or, let me be more specific. When we talk about specific Negro entertainers, your Negro president, Barack Obama, we get real funny. I noticed, I won't, before I go into Jay-Z in the Beehive, I did a video. I'm not sure if you all paid attention, but I did on 9 Mind Radio maybe about a month ago. I did a whole class on my assessment on Barack Obama. I did my own research. I even posted the sources in the video where I went over the sources several times. So I needed people to do their research on what AFRICOM was. He was a big supporter of AFRICOM. People know what AFRICOM is. AFRICOM, their main thing was to go in and, basically incite war and to find a reason to go in, specifically in Syria, and rape resources. That's their whole point, is to rape resources. And they've done whatever they could to do so. They didn't want the African Union. They wanted AFRICOM instead, because an African Union means you get all the head of state, every country in Africa, and they'll be controlling their resources. Hey, Afi, Hotep, Great Rising. And it was just funny that this person was like, you're basing your stuff on opinion. It's not based on fact. That's crap. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I didn't respond it to it. I thought it was kind of funny, but I'm like, this isn't opinion. This is absolute fact. You can actually, that's why I kept posting, I kept repeating myself with the sources. You can go online and look up Africa. It's not going to be a book because this is new information. It's all good, Karam. Do what you can, bro. Thanks a lot for the support. Real talk, Karam Ellis. Hotep to you, family. Hotep to you and your family. Real talk, Karam. Thank you for the support, and I'll support you whenever you do too. Truth be told, is just a lot of our people are just afraid of the truth, of reality. If you, again, study what AFRICOM is, the whole point was soldiers going in. These are funded soldiers from the U.S. that go in and they incite war. It's the same thing that they did when they went into the Congo, and these were CIA operatives that went into the Congo when they took out Patrice Lumumba. Same thing. It's no different. The thing is, we couldn't. It was the greatest plan. This is something that Umar Johnson said a lot. Is that we lost more lives under Barack than Clintons and the Bushes combined, and as well as Reagan's. If you count Africans from America all the way abroad, we lost a lot of lives. We have to start paying attention to that and stop allowing the Negro president, that is Barack Obama, to continue to deceive us, because really we're deceiving ourselves. We were led into the gallows, and this is where we're going right now with Donald Trump, who works for the interest of the Trilateral Commission. Yes, I said it. And that's the truth. Do your research on the Trilateral Commission again. But yeah, that's the truth of the matter. It's just sad. What's going on, Baba? How you doing, family? Man. But I'm gonna go into something that's very odd to me. It was very odd when I did the whole Jay-Z and since people want me to call her Bae now, Beyonce. Wow. One thing I noticed is that most of the people who had a problem with that post were black men. That was really strange. I seen sisters, they had a problem because, a lot of sisters like Beyonce, which is cool. So I was like, okay, wow, this is pretty deep. And so I was just saying, my thing is, okay, we can have a difference in opinion, and I have no problem with a difference in opinion, but when people, you can tell, people they type with tone. And a lot of people they're real, real mad. Like, you mad? What you mad about? I mean, truth be told, I'm just putting it together. First of all, let's just keep it 210. If you remember, this was over 10 years ago. You had specific people who were trying to make a black distribution company. This is on record. I didn't make this up. You got Jay Prince. You had Gotti, Suge Knight. You understand what I'm saying? So, and you had Dame Dash. They all were trying to come together to create a black distribution company. Even Dame is, still doing his thing with his own, and we don't support him at all. But anyway, next thing you know, and these are all four men who had some form of connection to him, vaguely Suge, but all four of them had some type of connection to Jay. And so all of a sudden, around this time, all of them even Jay was at the same level of all of them. They were all on the same level. All of a sudden, certain mouths begin to open, and then you see Dame lose money. Suge goes to prison. You see Irv get extorted. Now, people will blame the situation with Irv on McGriff, but they used the McGriff situation to go even further into his money. Him and his brother, I keep forgetting his older brother's name, but they use it as a means to take that down. And even Dame himself in an interview said, I can't make this up, family. Said, I can't even say that man's name. He was talking about Jack. I can't say that man's name. The people he's standing next to, I can't even say his name. He said, I refuse to. I'm not going to talk about him. I don't want nobody coming after me. He said that. So before y'all come and attack me, do your research. That's why I'm going to keep saying, I'm not going to get mad. Just do your research. Do your research, family, and then you could really put things together. You know what I'm saying? I may be wrong on the Jay Prince situation, but he was involved in that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he was or was not extorted. I could be wrong on that. But I know the other three, for example, you put that together, something happened to them. And that's really funny how people refuse to put things in proper perspective and connect dots and use context clues. That's the one thing we've learned in school is that use context clues. Whenever you're looking at something and whenever you're trying to put something together, learn to use context clues. It will save you a lot of trouble. It will save you from, a lot of emotion because we're emotionally attached to these people. And Beyonce. See, a lot of brothers, and I'm because of the majority rules, a lot of brothers had a lot of vitriol for me, for Jay and Beyonce. Here's what I gotta say to that. A lot of y'all need to go ahead and join the Beehive. Or y'all need to create a male version of the Beehive. Because y'all look real funny doing that. This is the thing. A lot of y'all will claim her newfound consciousness when she did the Super Bowl performance. You know what I'm saying? Let me read before I continue what Afi said. We are overly concerned with trivial matters, all the while important aspects of the situation entirely miss. Truth, you're right about that. Afi just said that. If you go back to the Super Bowl performance, you see the whole Panther get up that she did, which me personally, it was a disrespectful thing to do. It was a bunch of bullshit. If you look in the crowd, she supports the homosexual LGBT community, which is really NAMBLA, which supports pedophilia and making pedophilia into a sexual orientation. So whether she does or does not know that, and she's not stupid, she knows who she's supporting. So you're willing to support an entertainer who supports a bigger agenda where they're attacking black children on a daily freaking basis. Think about that for a moment. Before you get mad at me, just look at the fact that this is the thing with celebrity, with Negro entertainers. See, all this buck dancing that we constantly glorify, the Negro entertainer, we've been glorifying buck dancing since the Harlem Renaissance. The Harlem Renaissance is I'm about to stomp on people's hearts right now. It was nothing but a covert operation. I keep saying this, and this is matter of fact, this is the book that really defines it. Steve Coakley at one point put it out, but this is the book that defines it. I'm about to show you right now. It's probably gonna be backwards, but it's called Bridges and Boundaries. The name of the book is called Bridges and Boundaries: Black and Jewish Relations. And in that book, it literally tells you that they funded the whole purpose of the Harlem Renaissance. Literally was a covert operation designed so that there will be no other Marcus Garvey movement. That was the whole point of it. That was the whole point. It was funded. They got a bunch of Negro entertainers all over the country, got them to come together to perform for white folks. That was the whole point of it. One of the main people that they that helped put it together was James Weldon Johnson, Langston Hughes, who was that? Zora Neale Hurston, all these names you remember in Negro history. Yeah, they were the main ones that was help putting together the whole Negro movement that you call the Harlem Renaissance. Because if you go back and you look at, let's say, the Cotton Club, and you go back to, remember, blacks didn't own Harlem at all. We've never owned Harlem. You understand what I'm saying? We had real estate and this and that. You had the 5% Nation. You had this. You had Adam Clayton Powell working. You had Malcolm that worked. But we didn't own anything, especially at that time. Even the Jews that wrote this book will tell you that Negroes at that time were performing in a Harlem that did not even own. And if you go back at the time of the Harlem Renaissance, all we were doing was performing for white folks. Truthfully, performing for white folks. That's it. To do what? Because if you look, we were still extremely segregated in Harlem. Just because it wasn't the South does not mean we were not segregated. Okay? We were extremely segregated. The whole purpose of the Harlem Renaissance was to get black folks to get back to performing for white people. And it was funded by the Rockefeller Foundation as well as Andrew Carnegie, or the Carnegie Foundation, or the Carnegies as well. These are the two main people. And these are two of the same people, same foundations who funded the eugenics movement against for the extermination of black people. Got to put it together and do your research, family. And since then, that's exactly what we've been doing. We've been buck dancing since then, as the same quotes from Steve Coakley. Thing is, Negro entertainment is for the benefit and the amusement and the entertainment of white people. Plain and simple. What is James Owens? None of these people are contributing to our upliftment, so damn them. But this needs to be exposed, James Owens. This is the thing. This is people talk about the spell like it's only religious. The spell is layered. You see what I'm saying? The problem is we do not study history. We'll go back 10,000 years ago into something that we don't even know what we're looking at. But then when you go back 100 years, people get attitudes. Like, okay, let's just keep it real. Negro entertainment is still going on to this day. What is the Grammys? Negro entertainment. You find what you want is well, Afi said, I just killed your lover. It's the truth. I can't make this up. When I first read it, sister, I was crushed. I was like, damn. And Du Bois was behind that too. He was also a part of the directing of all of the, Langston Hughes and all these motherfuckers. These are the Negro entertainers performing for white folks to make money so there will be no other black liberation movement. They could not have no other liberation movement like the UNIA, because that was getting black people to do for self. You need black people to be dependent on crackers. That is the whole point. But going back to what I'm saying, if you look at everything that we do is for the amusement of white people. We've been doing this since the Harlem Renaissance. We've been doing this since slavery. We refuse to get away from that. So that's why when you talk about Negro entertainers, it upsets and it pisses black people off, because they don't want to get away from or off the tip of crackers. That's the whole point. Because again, we always talk about, damn, why wasn't we nominated for this award? So you want white people to pay attention to you. That's the whole point. That's what the whole thing comes down to. I mean, we don't really want to move forward in anything that we do. We want to stay back. You gotta realize Negro entertainers' job is to buck dance for white people and keep black people at bay. You understand what I'm saying? See, and this is reality, and this is not being extreme. Let's just keep it 210. Beyonce can sing all day, and let's say, for example, she did a free concert for black people, right? The same people calling themselves conscious will come to that concert and sing with her. They have a conscious beehive. And she'll sing us all the way into a Rex 84 camp. As long as she's singing, and as long as Jay come, you know, he'll do what's the song called? City of New York with Alicia Keys. He'll come out and do that. As long as they singing, as long as they rapping, peace, Robert Taylor. As long as he's rapping, and as long as she's singing, we will run right behind them to the Rex 84 camp. And we know that we're doing it right now. Cause think about it, I'm gonna say this one more time. Beyonce sat up, put on the whole costume of the Panthers, which was to me very disrespectful because Panthers died and are in prison for life for what they did for black people in the 60s and the 70s. And in the Super Bowl crowd, you got the gay flag, which is the same flag as pedophilia. You cannot tell me she don't know that. But do you care? No, doesn't make a difference. You understand? It co-signed Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton, along with Bill Clinton, co-signed mass incarcerations of African people. And also went into Haiti, slaughtered people, took resources, and now they're in the global elite level. But it doesn't matter because it's Beyonce. And all she got to do is come out and sing all the single ladies. That's called social engineering at its finest. They know how to refine white supremacy by using their Negroes. I'm sorry, it is what it is. Let me read what Afi Issa said before I go into my next subject. So now she's been Moorish, Black Panther, Oshun, RBG. Black folks got savior syndrome bad. Truth of the matter is she has a team that researches what is trending. Well, exactly. Shock value. You know what I'm saying? I remember when she had the Oshun. I mean, she had that hat on. She had the people in the fez. So she was Moorish. I remember that. And then recently she's Oshun because she had the yellow dress on. And it was funny because it was a cracker that came right behind her. Yeah, it was. Oh, Robert Taylor, she's going to Egypt next. And so all she has to do, literally, is put on a dress. All she got to do is put on a costume that resembles consciousness. She could put an RBG like headband on, and everybody in RBG would be like, yeah, or just black people as a whole would be like, that's what I'm talking about. She's conscious now, not even knowing you're being led to the gas chamber, not even paying attention to that. See, a lot of black people really think that when you talk about Rex 84 that you're just making it up. Dude, the camps are ready. Let's just stop playing. But anyway. Yeah, Robert Taylor says she's going to Egypt. Yeah, and what's funny is that she's actually been to Egypt before, and she got kicked out of Egypt for being an idiot. Like, she went to Egypt, and I think she was in one of the pyramid chambers or something, and she said something real coonish. It was. I want to paraphrase. I can't quote, but I have to paraphrase. She was in one of the chambers, and she was like, "Wow, they're really black and ugly," and I was like. I heard. I was like, "Wow, she said that," and the people they removed it. It wasn't even Muslims because Muslims don't care either way. These Arabs don't give a damn, but they just removed it. Said you have to leave. They don't care about your stardom over there. I think it was like just black people they were Muslim, but they weren't like Dino Islam Muslim, but they were people that were like taking over. Just basically doing whatever they can to deal with the maintenance of the pyramids. And it was just kind of crazy how she just disrespected her own people. All she has to do is go back into Kemet like was the the real kicker is if she sat up and you had like an Ashwa Kwesi visit and she was in the background like doing this, like she was like kneeling like that. All of a sudden you get a bunch of people come out of nowhere and be like, that's what I'm talking about, babe, black power. Again, I need y'all I need y'all to calm that down, man. I need y'all to calm that down because it's really sad. Social engineering is a deep process of white supremacy. They knew that all they had to do was, and that's why I keep saying, look up Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. I'm gonna say it one more time. Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. When you look up Tavistock, they break down exactly what it means to what social engineering is and how they can prop up a Negro. And they were dealing with all types of races. The same thing with the Latinos for a long time. Hotep Nina, when in the Latino community as well as black community, when they were propping up J-Lo, that was Tavistock. When they propped up not Jay-Z, but Jordan, and they're able to make billions of dollars off of Jordan. I'm digressing, but I'm just giving you an idea what Tavistock does. That they're able to put billions of dollars into one entity, buy that entity, and get everybody in that specific race to follow that specific entity. So again, if you can go online, there's books from Tavistock that breaks down all of that. But let me go into what Negro history is. I gave you an idea, but this is true Negro history. Negro history, as you know, we're in Negro History Month right now. Negro history written by a Negro named Carter G. Woodson, who was Boule Sigma Pi Phi. Hate to burst your bubble, but yeah, this is the Sigma Pi Phi book that I'm reading right now. I just dug into it. Truthfully, Carter G. Woodson was a great scholar. I'm gonna make this twofold. What did Niece say? Haha, let them make it, Ali. They're still growing. I think those that are conscious folks who are detached from people in our movement. Yeah, I understand that, but it's time to debrief. It's 2017, and we got to move on. It's ridiculous. We got real stuff going on, and the moment she does one thing, we run behind it. We got to learn how to not move so quick when we see things, and that's what saddens me is that we don't give reference to scholars, and that's something, Neith, from you when you made a post and Keith made a statement, we don't get supported. People who are on the front line get no support. So you got people like Claude Anderson who just bounced. And I don't have a problem with what he did, what Claude did, because Claude is 83 years old. You know what I'm saying? Dr. Welsing died of a stroke putting in work. Before she died, the day before she died, she did a lecture the day before she died. And all we want to do is follow behind Beyonce and Jay. That is shameful. We're going to have to break from that. At some point, we're going to have to break from that. That's sick. Dr. Neely Fuller is out here, 93 years old. 93 years old, Dr. Neely Fuller is 93 years old, and he's still trying to write a book. And he's still putting in his information. He can't even make public appearances because of how sick the man is. But again, the moment T.I. puts a fist up and put a beret on, T.I., oh man, now we got to do what we need to do. Because T.I. said we got to do what we need to do. Okay. But yeah. Carter G. Woodson, Negro History Month. Went from Negro History Week to Negro History Month. The whole point of what I'm going to say is going to hurt people's feelings, but this is the truth. Most of the scholars that we follow are Negroes, truthfully. And this is not a knock or a shot, but you gotta pay attention. I'm not gonna name names. I know how people are. But all you have to do, this is for the people to decide for themselves. And this is something I learned from paying attention to Steve Coakley last night. I looked at one of his lectures last night when I got home, and I was like, damn, this man is speaking from the grave. Let's just keep it real. Negro history, before I go into real talk, I'm going to Carter G. Woodson, who was Boule Sigma Pi Phi black elitist. And when I say Boule Sigma Pi Phi, I'm talking about the black buffer class that was put together, designed to lead blacks into the gas chamber, into Rex 84 camps. That's what Sigma Pi Phi Boule really is. You understand what I'm saying? They signed off. A lot of Negroes signed off on eugenics. They signed off on the miseducation because Carter G. Woodson signed off on the miseducation Negro. That's how he was able to write the book on the miseducation Negro, because he signed off on it. That's the whole point of it. Truth be told, let's keep it 210. Okay, the Miseducation of the Negro was an awesome book. It really is. But he was writing it from the perspective of a person who was involved in your miseducation. So it's like, of course he can write a great book if he sat there and witnessed it. He sat there and watching the signings of the Rockefeller family and the signings of the Carnegie family and the signings of the Rosenwald family. He was watching what was going on. So his whole Negro History Month, his Black History Month, the whole point of that, truthfully, was like, I don't like niggas, but I'm gonna give them something. You understand what I'm saying? And the way you judge the people who were supposed to be here for you is you analyze what did they do before they die. You understand what I'm saying? George G.M. James died of a Masonic death. They cut his throat, and he was Boule as well. Sigma Pi Phi, Black Elite. But he also wrote one of the greatest books that you can write on ancient Kemet is what? Everybody knows which one I'm talking about. Stolen Legacy. He wrote that book, and they got him. You understand what I'm saying? And guess what? You have others, J.A. Rogers, Sigma Pi Phi, that wrote on information that goes down on real situations, but at the same time, like, because J.A. Rogers was mostly talking about Moorish history. And truth be told, if you go into, let's say, what Negro history is basically designed around slavery, civil rights, and Black oppression. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, because you got to look at, let's say, Moorish history it's like looking at almost like the law of Ma'at, how the heart is weighed. Because you got to look at it like this. Moorish history, you got to realize, it's very much like twofold. For example, if you go back 7-11, you got Tariq Ibn Zayed, who crosses into Europe, which is Spain, declares the Rock of Gibraltar, and they go in and they basically win battles, and they go in, I'm talking about the Moors, and they come in and they lose a battle, but then they have to settle into a land that they will call Cordova. Okay, and of course they settle into a land that is Europe, and they ruled 70% of Europe for over almost 800 years. Right? That's the surface statement that you'll get about Moorish history. Not knowing, and this is according to Robin Walker's research, is why I say go get the book When We Ruled, that a man named Nasir ibn Zayed, who's of the Ottoman Empire, Pale Arabs, was really the ones that was controlling the Moorish rule. Eventually, the man Tariq ibn Zayed, who was of the Black Moors, he was imprisoned. And so, because you gotta realize the population of the Moors, they were Black Moor, 60%, and 40% Pale Arab. So it wasn't all Black Moors, and that's a big misconception. People have to update their information because that's not true. Do your research. So then you go back and you realize that he was being controlled by a Pale Arab who fired him. Okay? And then you go back, once they lost rule, then they end up collaborating in the Congo. And this is, the rest is history. When they collaborated in the slave trade, what Afi said is Negro history post-transatlantic slavery. Pretty much. Because if you look and you study most of the writings of, except for George G.M. James, most of the history is really based upon, and this is, even George G.M. James, if you study most Boule writers, and just writers now, whenever you see writers or lecturers that only talk about Black oppression, what they're doing is they're basically projecting their fear onto Black people. You know what I'm saying? If all you're talking about is the slave trade, All you're talking about is the Middle Passage. All you're talking about is civil rights. All you're talking about is the Harlem Renaissance. When basically what you're saying is when we lost is where you pick up. Because you know that inside your brain there's a filter that says if I go into when we was beating crackers, that's going to spark something in these Negroes' minds. So let me not do that. Let me keep them subjugated to continue talking about slavery, to continue talking about things that show the submissiveness and the enslavement of African people. Just pay attention to that. Whenever you see a person that's always talking about how we lost, and well, not so much you're learning from it to do better, but that's the only thing you're talking about. You never talk about the first, like the old kingdom of Kemet. And Kemet is fine to build on as long as you're talking about something relevant and putting in proper context. You never talk about the old kingdom. You feel like the old kingdom is too old, so you go into the end of the middle kingdom at the end of the 25th dynasty, and you go into the new kingdom where it was pretty much mixed with Hyksos. What did Nina Jones say? How do you feel about the movie Get Out? Wow, that's a good question. And what's funny is I'm actually going to go see it to analyze it. When I first saw it, I knew it was some BS, truthfully, Nina. Because it's like Black fear. They're subjugating, like they're putting this perception out about Black fear. This thing about first thing is you seen a black. The whole premise of the thing is Key and Peele. If you look at the first thing I look at, Nina, is Key and Peele. Key and Peele, I think it's just made by Peele, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Key and Peele, just as a group of Negroes, they only socialize with white people for the most part. You know, it's weird. They only socialize with white people. They have 2 white wives, so their perspective is whitewashed. So when you look at whether the writers or the producers or the directors, they're projecting their own lives onto a movie screen. So that's the first thing you have to think about, Nina, as you're watching this, is that I'm being projected to when I'm looking at this. So you're looking at a person who basically co-signs dating crackers, number one, and you're looking at a movie that's on the premise of this, that, you know, basically saying, people look at it as just a warning against dating white women. Can't really be that if the person who's writing it and putting it together dates white women themselves. That don't make any sense. So, yeah, shuck and jive Negroes. But that's the situation. That's what it is. It's like basically saying, like, you know, all the stuff going on where you got Negroes being like subjugated in the movie, and it's like the ghost of Negro past coming out. This stuff is projection. It's a joke, truthfully. You know, and it's like, I was like, not want to debate. I may just go see it I may go online and just see it on Kodi because it's on bootleg anyway. But it was just like, some deep stuff. It's sad how when a black person is a writer in a movie, with like a major motion picture, 9 times out of 10 is someone who dates a white woman or a white man, and they have a white perspective, whitewash perspective, and they always have to put out Negro antics. What did Nina Jones say? Like, stay away from them or this is going to start happening. I mean, if that's what you're going to say, fine, but you date white women, so what does that say about you? That's the thing. If that's what is it happening to you? You made a movie about it? Or are you projecting your own life on the TV, on the movie screen? Is that what you're trying to say? That's the thing. A lot of people are kind of excited about this movie, but it's just like kind of strange. You know what I mean? So that's the crazy thing. But going back to what I was saying, it's like, wow, pay attention to those who don't like to show when Africans in Kemet, you know, basically was cutting the heads of crackers off. Going back to the old kingdom, when we preserved our people. They don't like to even talk about that. You understand what I'm saying? They don't even want to go in the Kush where it was female rulers. You understand? Most of when it was Nisutet all over the place, all in Kush. You understand what I'm saying? They don't want to go into that. It's like They stay in the subjugated sense of everything. Everything is a subjugated sense of black people. And so what that does is anything someone is teaching you, they're projecting something to you. They're projecting something. They're not only you're not only learning, you're projecting, you know, a perspective, but in their mind a reality that we can never get away from crackers and we can never start a revolution. And that's really what you're getting when you're looking at or when you're paying attention to Negro history. That's what Negro history is. So me myself, I don't have any respect for Boule members. I have no real respect. Like Carter G. Woodson as a scholar was a great scholar, but I don't respect a man who stood around same thing as Dr. King and did deals with these crackers and knew what was going on. I have no. That's the thing. We got to stop getting it. Black people are caught in emotionalism. We don't use logic in any form anymore. We don't use logic or intellect. We don't pay attention. We got to start doing that. Once we start doing that, we'll be a lot better off. And the thing is this also. Pay attention to teachers who don't talk about any institutions at all. There's no end game to what they're doing. They're just talking. There has to be a clear set agenda for your whole purpose of what you're doing. You understand what I'm saying? If you're going to put yourself on the front line, what are you putting yourself on the front line for? So people can see you're a frontline Negro? Is that what it is? Because it's about getting institutions for our children. Again, I'm not going to be here. I may not make it for X amount of years, truthfully. But I'm going to make sure that whoever wants to get an African-centered institution with African money only is going to get funded by whatever I have in my pocket. You understand what I'm saying? You give to those people so we can get away from Negro history and we can get into African history. We got to stop with that. That's why Negro entertainers get most of our money, because we love watching ourselves. It's the same thing with sports. That's why the black men can't get rid of sports, because most of black men are unemployed. This I know for a fact. Most of our men are either unemployed or working part-time jobs. And so this is something that Dr. Boyce Watkins said. It made a lot of sense. Dr. Boyce Watkins said basically a lot of times when you look at shows like ESPN, Sports Center, and all this other stuff, and they make sure they put a lot of money into these shows because they know black men are sitting at home with nothing else to do, looking at these shows, these sports. And the thing is, black men live their lives through other Negroes. You know, the LeBron James, the Adrian Petersons, the Russell Westbrooks, all these Negroes. We live our lives through them because in our minds we've failed and we've lost. We're already defeated. You understand what I'm saying? And so now they make these shows where we're sitting down and we're just looking at this, probably drinking a beer, not doing nothing else. I'm defeated. There ain't nothing else for me to do. So this is all I'm going to look at. And that's the reality. Because I remember at one point ESPN was really just about crackers. Cracker men looking at misogynistic BS all damn day. But now it's like, that's why when you look at these shows, you know, the First Take, they make sure they have specific type of people that they know black men like or black people like. So they're really catering to the black audience when they make these shows. So it was a very good point that Dr. Boyce Watkins said. And I was like, wow, it's deep. And that's, again, another form of social engineering to keep you locked in to whatever antler of white supremacy is going on, or just a branch of it. So we got to really start really paying attention to what's really going on. And just pay attention to, again, people who only deal with subjugation, who the time that we lost, as opposed to the time that we was killing crackers, the time that we was taking heads. You don't want to look at Namir. You would rather look at when we began to miscegenate and we lost. Because there's so many reasons as to why we lost. But the main reason was the immigration laws. That was the beginning of the end. That was the beginning of the first step. The miscegenation laws of Kemet was broken down. So guess what? We began to take on white women. And this is something that Chancellor Williams talks about in his book, Destruction of Black Civilization. He's solving a problem that, what is you saying? Get away from crackers. I don't need the movie Get Out to show me that. So, yeah. That's my take for today. Maybe I'll try to get this done once Friday, every Friday, because every time I turn around, I try to get on try to get on 9 Mile Radio. They been shutting that down. So I'll do whatever I can to get on however I can do it. So again, peace, Black Power, Hotep, and Wadu family.